Hello, welcome to another First Chapter Friday. Today's book is a New York Times bestseller, and it is The Personal Librarian, and it's by two authors. It is Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. All right, so this one has gotten so many, it's got recognition by tons of different book clubs, and it is a historical novel based on true people. And this is in particular about a young woman who is definitely Black, but she has she's mixed race, and their family is making an interesting choice. And she is going to be working during a time where people who were colored were not allowed to work in certain industries, one of them being the one that she is going into. So here we are. For the two sides of Belle, Belle DaCosta Green and Belle Marion Greener. Chapter 1, November 28, 1905. This is the Gilded Age. Princeton, New Jersey. The Old North bell tolls the hour, and I realize I'll be late. I long to break into a sprint, my voluminous skirts lifted, my legs flying along the Princeton University pathways. But just as I gather the heavy material, I hear Mama's voice. Belle, be a lady at all times. I sigh. A lady would never run. I release the fabric and slow down as I weave through Princeton's leafy, Gothic landscape, designed to look like Cambridge and Oxford. I know I must do nothing to draw any kind of extra attention. By the time I pass Blair Arch, my stride is quick but acceptable for a lady. It's been 5 years since I left our New York City apartment for this sleepy New Jersey college town, and the quiet is still unnerving. On the weekends, I wish I could return to the energy of New York, but the 60 cents for the train ticket is outside my family's budget, so I send money home instead. As I duck under a crenellated tower, I moderate my pace so I won't be breathless when I arrive. You are at Princeton University. You must take extra care working at that all-male institution. Be cautious. Never do anything to stand out. Even though she's nearly 60 miles away, Mama insinuates herself into my thoughts. Pushing the heavy oak door slowly to minimize its loud creak, I pad as quietly as my calfskin boots allow, across the marble foyer, and before I sidle into the office I share with two other librarians. The room is empty, and I exhale in relief. If sweet-tempered Miss McKenna saw me arrive late, it would have been of no import, but with hood-eyed, nosy Miss Adams, I could never be certain she wouldn't mention my offense at some future time to our superior. I remove my coat and hat, careful to smooth my rebellious curly hair back into place. Tucking my somber navy skirt behind me, I slide onto my chair. Within minutes, the office door flies open, slamming against the wood-paneled wall, and I jump. It is only my dear friend, fellow librarian and housemate, Gertrude Hyde. As the niece of the esteemed head of purchasing for the library, Charlotte Martins, she can breach the quiet of the library's hollowed halls without fear of repercussions. An ebullient 23-year-old with ginger hair and bright eyes. No one makes me laugh as she does. Sorry to make you jump, dear Belle. I guess I owe you 2 apologies now instead of the single one I had intended. First, we abandoned you this morning, which undoubtedly led to your lateness, she says with a mischievous smile and a glance at the wall clock. And now I've given you a fright. Don't be silly. The fault is mine. I should have put aside that letter to my mother and walked to the campus with you and Charlotte. Miss Martins, I mean. I correct myself. Most days, Charlotte, Gertrude, and I walk together from their large family home on University Drive, where I have a room and share meals with Charlotte Gertrude and the rest of their family who live in the house as well. From the first, Charlotte and Gertrude have welcomed me into their home and social circles with warmth and generosity and have provided me with abundant guidance at work. I cannot imagine what my time at Princeton would have been like without them. Belle, why are you fussing about what to call Aunt Charlotte? There's nobody here but you and me, Gertrude Marks scolds me. I don't say what I'm thinking. That Gertrude doesn't need to assess every single moment of every single day against societal standards to ensure her behavior passes muster. She has no need to analyze her words, her walk, her manner, but I do. Even with Gertrude, I must act with care, particularly given the heightened scrutiny in this university town, which operates as if it lies in the segregated South rather than the supposedly more progressive North. The distinctive clip of Miss Adams' shoes sound in the hallway outside my office door, and Gertrude's skirt rustles as she moves to leave. She has as much fondness for my office mate as I do, and she'll skedaddle before she can get locked into a conversation. Before she exits the office altogether, she turns back to me, whispering, "Are you still free for the philosophy lecture tonight?" Since Woodrow Wilson assumed presidency of Princeton University 3 years ago and instituted all sorts of scholastic reform, the number of lectures open to staff and members of the community has increased. While Gertrude and I revel in being included in the academic life of the campus, I loathe certain of Wilson's other decisions, such as maintaining Princeton as a whites-only university, when all the other Ivy League schools have admitted colored folks. But I would never voice aloud these views. Instead, I say, wouldn't miss it for the world. The quiet of the stacks wraps around me like a soft blanket. I relax into the subdued hush of patrons turning pages and the scent of leather bindings. My long day spent in the company of medieval manuscripts and early printed books calm and delight me. Imagining the labors of the first printing press users as they memorialized the English language and broadly disseminated its literature through the meticulous work of placing the type letter by letter, transforming empty pages into beautiful text to inspire worshippers and readers. It transports me beyond the limitations of this time and place, just as Papa always believed. To him, the written word would act as an invitation to free thought and broader world, and nowhere was that more true than in the dawn of the printed word, where for the first time that invitation could be made to the masses instead of a select few. "Miss Green," I hear a soft voice from beyond the stacks. 2 simple words, but my visitor's modulated tone and distinctive accent give him away. And anyway, I've been waiting for him. "Good day, Mr. Morgan," I reply, turning in his direction. Even though I'm talking softly, Miss Scott glances up from the circulation desk with a disapproving scowl. It isn't so much the volume of my speech as the pleasantness of my relationship with fellow librarian and collection benefactor that vexes her. While Mr. Junius Morgan is ostensibly a banker, he has generously donated dozens of ancient and medieval manuscripts to the university, which is why he also holds the titular position of Associate Head Librarian. I'm convinced that Miss Scott thinks any sort of relationship between us, even the cordial professional one we share, is beneath him. A slight man with wispy brown hair and a kindly expression behind his circular glasses materializes. "How are you today, Miss Green?" "Well, sir, and yourself?" My tone is professional and reserved. He's 20 minutes later than the time we mentioned, and I'd begun to think he'd forgotten about our appointment. But I would never dare mention his tardiness. "I was going to take a gander at the Virgils, as we discussed yesterday. I wonder if you'd still care to accompany me, assuming your duties and interests permit, of course." Mr. Morgan, whom I think of as Junius in privacy of my own thoughts, knows that my zeal for the library's most valuable collection is nearly as intense as his own, and that none of my other tasks will stand in the way of a private viewing that he has promised. We share a passion for the ancient Roman poet Virgil. The library houses 52 volumes of his poetry. My discussions with Junius about the dark voyages in the Aeneid and the Odyssey are some of the brightest moments of my days. While Junius admires Odysseus, I identify always with Aeneas, the Trojan refuge who had desperately tried to fulfill his destiny in a world that holds no place for him. Aeneas was driven by duty, sacrificing for the good of others. "I have cleared my schedule, sir." I smile. "Wonderful, if you'll follow me." My skirts swish the oak floor as I follow Junius to the small, elegant room where the Virgils are housed. I have to inhale and restrain my foot from tapping as I wait for him to fish out the heavy key ring from his pocket. Finally, he pushes the door open to reveal the glass cases holding the precious collection of rare books. There are only about 150 printed books of Virgil's poetry in existence. These volumes were all printed in the 15th century. Most of them have been donated by Junius. I've seen these books only a few times before while in the company of the restoration team. This is a holy moment. "Would you care to hold my favorite?" Mr. Morgan's voice worms its way into the sanctity of my thoughts. Junius is carrying the Swinehen and the Parnars copy of Virgil, the rarest of all the books. German clerics Conrad Swinehen and Arnold Parnars were two of the first users of the printing press in the 15th century, and the book he's proffering me is one of their very first editions. "May I?" I ask, incredulous at this opportunity. "Of course." His eyes are bright behind his spectacles. I suspect it's a thrill for him to share his prize with one who cares equally about it. I slide the proffered white gloves into my hands. The book is heavier than I expected. I sit before its open pages. How Papa would have relished this moment. I think of my father who introduced me to the rarefied world of art and manuscripts when I was only a girl. "One day the beauty of your mind and the beauty of art will be as one," Papa had said to me. The memory of Papa's words makes me smile as I turn the yellowed pages. I examine the hand-detailed letter T that marks the beginning of a page, marveling at the luster of its gold leaf. I am oblivious to Junius's presence near me until he begins talking. "I saw my uncle last evening." Junius doesn't need to identify who his uncle is. Everyone at the library knows he is the nephew of the infamous financier J.P. Morgan, which is exactly why I never mention him. I want Junius to understand that I appreciate him for his erudition alone. "Ah," I answer politely, never moving my eyes from the page. "Yes, at the Grolier Club." I know the club he speaks of by reputation anyway. Founded about 20 years ago in 1884, the private club consists of moneyed bibliophiles whose main aim is to promote the scholarship and collection of books. I would adore a peek behind the closed doors of its Romanesque townhouse on East 32nd Street. But as a woman, I'd never be admitted, and to those men, my gender would not be my only sin. Were you attending an interesting lecture? I attempt to continue making small talk. Actually, Ms. Green, it wasn't the lecture that was interesting. Junius's tone contains a quality unusual for him, bordering on playful. Curious, I turn away from Virgil. Junius's placid face, always pleasant but always serious, has cracked open with a smile. It's a bit disconcerting, and I lean away a little. I wonder what on earth is going on. No, I ask. The lecture wasn't good? The lecture was fine, but the most fascinating discussion of the evening was with my uncle about his personal art and manuscript collection. I advise him about it from time to time, as well as the new library he's constructing for it right next door to his home in New York City. Oh, yes, I say with a small nod. Is he considering an intriguing new acquisition? Junius pauses for a moment before he answers. In a matter of speaking, I suppose, he is in search of a new acquisition, he says with a knowing chuckle. I have recommended that he interview you for his newly created post of Personal Librarian. What? Okay, so this book is a historical fiction, but it is written in such a narrative and such a current manner, so that you feel completely like you can understand the social classes, because it's just, I don't know, putting yourself into the shoes of this young lady Belle. It's just very easy to understand her condition and the difficulties that she is in, because she is both colored, passing as white, and she is poor in a society that is filled with the moneyed people who are very judgmental, even to themselves. I don't know how many of you are watching The Gilded Age on HBO, but that society is just mean to anyone who's new money even. So if you take this book and give it a chance, you will be so thrilled if this appeals to you. Trying to imagine what it must have been like for her to try to fit into both of those, and then to try to come to an understanding of who she is. Just like that introduction said, you know, it was dedicated to both sides of Belle, her passing as white side, and then her colored folk community, and, you know, trying to stay true. So check it out, finish the book. It is one that I have mentioned has been part of many, many book club selections. So yeah, I'm sure you'll find other people who will start raving with you as soon as you say that you've read it. And then you're going to pass it on like I am to try to get others to read it too. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a great Friday.